Hello there, everyone. Art Burns here. Hope you're all having a wonderful, fantastic day today. So yesterday I talked about the confidence that comes from mindfulness practices, and this is something that's very, very true, right? Like when you feel that you can really meet every single moment of your life with acceptance, with presence, the ability to let go of your preconceived, kind of expectations, which will lead to, things like disappointment or frustration. And when you can approach each moment and meet each moment with a level of curiosity that allows this openness to happen. And most of all, when you can meet each moment with compassion, knowing that compassionate decisions always wind up in the, kind of beneficial places, even if they're unexpected beneficial places. When we can do this, when we can live in this way and we train ourselves to live in this way, it is a confidence that results, because when we feel like we can just manage whatever comes up, like whatever happens, it's going to be okay, right? That doesn't mean that bad things don't happen. It doesn't mean that we don't experience difficulties and we don't experience even moments of sometimes great suffering. But what it means is that we're going to be able to handle the suffering. We're going to be able to handle the difficulties that life sends us, that life presents us, and we can handle them with the good and the bad equally, and really be present with all the neutral stuff that happens too. And that's what I talk about a lot here, right? And so this does give you a confidence, but I want to drill down a little bit more into the idea of confidence, right? Because confidence is something that is, just so vital, right? For just about anything that you can try to do in your life, right? Whether it's parenting, whether it's your job, whether it's driving, whether it's, fixing something at home, whatever it is that you're doing, right? If you have confidence in yourself and in your ability to be able to do this thing, right? You're going to be more likely to do it in a state of flow, right? A loose and it's sort of not a tense and nervous way, but a loose and flowing way, right? A creative way. And this is the same language that we talk about with the stress response, right? When we're in the stress response, we're tense and we're afraid, we're conservative, we're pushing back from things, right? But when we're not in the state of stress, when we're in a state of eustress, right, which is just excitement and flow, we're creative, we're willing to take a couple of risks, we're willing to to do the things that are going to feel good and accomplish more in our lives, right? And so it's the same language, and so how do we get confidence, right? Like that's the key that we're all asking ourselves probably. And yes, it does evolve, and it is an evolutionary kind of thing, right? Within our lives, right? And it evolves, from a very little piece or wherever you're at, right? In terms of your self-confidence, because self-confidence is not something that's just a static, sort of one size fits all kind of thing, right? We all have different levels of self-confidence based on how we were brought up, right? Based on how we, it deals with, there's a lot of different factors that go into it, right? It deals with how much we were praised for things that we did right, how much we were made to feel shame for the things that we did wrong, how much self-compassion we were, shown how to apply to ourselves, and it deals with a lot of this stuff. And of course, as I say all the time, it's not just how you were between the age of birth and 7 or 8 years old. It's actually how your parents were at that age, how their parents were, and their grandparents, and on and on and on and on, right? So it's something that is definitely sort of baked in, right? Just like a lot of things when we talk about our implicit biases and our patterns that we live by and the conditioning in which we, by which we grow up, right? And so wherever you are, right, based on your upbringing, is where your self-confidence is, right? I mean, that's just something that is inherent in the way that you grew up, just like I just illustrated, right? For for better or worse, right? Pardon me. But the thing is, the beautiful thing is that self-confidence is not a static thing. It is very, very movable. It is very, very easy to grow self-confidence. And I mean that. It is easy, okay? Perhaps I should say it's simple, but it does require a little bit of work. but the work feels good. So why not? How can we even call it work, right? If it feels good, if it benefits us in so many different ways, right? And so what am I talking about here, right? So confidence, let's say self-confidence, just to be very clear, because self-confidence, confidence starts with ourselves, right? And if we feel confident in ourselves, then we feel confident in situations and circumstances at large, because we know how we're going to handle things. So therefore we can confidently approach different situations. Now, one thing I want to be very clear about, right? Confidence is often conflated and maybe misunderstood as bravery, right? Or as bravery, I don't know what other words you want to use for bravery, but that's not really what confidence is, right? Confidence includes a level of bravery, but bravery can be just blind, right? Bravery can just be like, I don't care what's going to happen, I'm going to do this anyway. Confidence is a little different from that, right? And confidence is more about knowing not only that I can get through something in a positive way, not only that I can manage, difficulties, but actually knowing when I am likely to fail as much as when I am likely to succeed, right? And that's where true self-confidence kind of comes from, right? Everything else that we talk about, if we talk about bravery, that's maybe we're talking more about like self-esteem, right? Like how we feel about ourselves, that, we believe in our abilities to get something done, right? So we just go for it. But the problem with that is that when we do fail, self-esteem and bravery tend to slip out the side door on us, right? And leave us with what's left is shame and guilt and self a feeling of low self-worth, right? And so self-confidence is much more associated with something like self-compassion, right? Which is that in spite of where we might fall short, and in spite of where we might fail, in spite of the things that we wish we were good at but we're not good at, we're still confident, right? We still believe in ourselves, right? Now, how do we develop this, and where does this come from? Okay, I'm glad you asked. So self-confidence, okay, you can take like a two-step backwards kind of view on how it becomes a thing to begin with, or what it is to begin with, and how it grows. Okay, so it really starts with self-awareness, right? Because when we are truly aware of what we're going through, right? Now this includes, pardon me, on an emotional level, on a sort of psychological level, if you will, which is kind of the same thing as an emotional level, but in a performance level, in a connectivity level, all the different levels in which we can feel aware of ourselves, right? And physically and mentally and spiritually and again, as a connected, like knowing how well we communicate with people, right? Like feeling that communication, right? This is all self-awareness, right? And when we can develop a high level and a vivid level of self-awareness, right, what we then move into is a level of accurate self-assessment, right? So I just mentioned communication, right? And this is a very, very kind of important or beneficial way to look at self-assessment, right? Maybe you're someone who, has great ideas, right? We all are, right? You're a smart person, you have great ideas, you have great intentions, you want to help people, you want to be a good person, you want to contribute in a positive way to society at large and, people within your community, right? This is all very, very wonderful things, and you're aware of that, right? And that's something that you believe in, right? But it could also be true. All those things, plus the fact that you're just not very good at communication. Right? Now, it's not your fault necessarily that you're not good at communication. So again, this all ties back into how we were brought up and how we were conditioned and what kind of education we were provided and all kinds of different things. So it's not your fault that you're not necessarily a good communicator, right? But maybe you're not, right? And maybe even though you feel that you're communicating, right? Because we're the last people to know usually, and that's the key here, right? Is that we don't necessarily understand how bad we're communicating because we're doing it from inside, right? It's something that we're not hearing ourselves communicating, so we're assuming that we're doing it right, but maybe we're not. That's where a self-awareness comes in, right? In a non-judging way, right? The ability to, or the openness to face ourselves and to say, okay, yeah, every time I try to explain something, it doesn't seem to hold, it doesn't seem to land with people. They don't seem to understand what I'm saying. So instead of saying, well, it must be them, not me, or becoming defensive within ourselves, or feeling the shame and the guilt about not being able to do this thing, right? We can instead say, okay, this is just something that is not a strength for me, right? And that is self-assessment, right? Once we can be self-aware on a non-judge, and only in non-judgment can we be fully self-aware, right? Otherwise, we're going to close those doors, right? If it's something we're worried about, if it's something we're going to be embarrassed by, or we feel shame about, or we just don't want to face, right? Then what we're going to do is we're going to close those doors, and we're never going to really bring awareness to that part of our self, right? And but it is part of ourselves, and it needs our awareness, and it needs our attention sometimes, right? So the ability, the openness, and the ability to bring that awareness to every aspect of us, emotionally, physically, mentally, connectively, in terms of how we communicate with others, intellectually, bringing this awareness in a non-judging and open way to all these different aspects of what makes us us, right? That allows for an accurate self-assessment. Okay, so going back to what I was saying about communication, accurately self-assessing oneself means to say, for instance, I really have some smart ideas. I know what I'm talking about because I've read so many books, and I've done so many different courses, and I've watched YouTube videos, and I'm so familiar with this subject, and I know that I'm familiar, and if anyone were to ask me questions about it, I could certainly help them with anything they need on this subject. I am smart, and I'm well informed, and I know this stuff inside and out. However, for whatever reason, I'm just not good at communication. I wind up telling stories that are, extraneous. I wind up, digressing into other things. I wind up using words that don't necessarily fit, and I'm just not great at communicating, right? So here's a self-assessment, right? I know that I'm really good at what I'm talking about. Like, I know that I know this subject inside and out, but I'm really poor at communicating it. In fact, I just watched the other night this brilliant scientist. His name is escaping me, but I watched this YouTube video where this guy, he was just talking about some profoundly amazing and really intelligent ideas, right? But he was one of the worst public speakers I've ever seen in my life. He was literally reading from the thing and talking to the audience, and like he couldn't even get the flow because he'd read up to the end and then turn the page and then continue a sentence. Like, it was like I was like, how is nobody helping this guy with his public speaking, right? But again, he was so smart, right? It was very clear that it was not an intelligence thing. It was just a confidence thing. It was a thing that he was just not good at public speaking, right? So now, so taking this again as an example, like, okay, I know this stuff really well, but I know that I really have a hard time speaking at it. Now, what this does is this does two really important things with regards to self-confidence, right? Number one, it tells us that, yeah, I'm really good at this, but I'm not good at this. So now, as I'm moving out into the world, and as I'm getting ready to explain something to someone, something that I know a lot about, and I'm at a cocktail party or something, when we wind up going back to cocktail parties at some point, and somebody, I have this desire to tell somebody about this thing that I know a lot about, but I know that my delivery is not going to be good. Now I can approach this situation with a self-confidence to say to the person, like, look, I'm really not good at explaining this stuff, but if you ask me questions, I can answer the questions you have, right? And maybe starting the conversation off that way. That is what self-confidence is, right? Lack of self-confidence is to say, I'm not going to go to the party at all because I'm so bad at speaking with people. I want to hide. I want to shut myself off, right? But this stuff so well, right? You just don't have the capacity to speak about it, right? In an intelligent and crafty, skillful way, right? So now that leads me to the second point that self-assessment leads to with regards to self-confidence, which is when we identify those things that we're really good at and also those things that we're not that good at. What does that give us a chance to do? Right? It gets us a chance to pay attention to these things that we're not that good at, right? We can practice speaking. We can take a course on speech or on vocabulary. We can get a little drilling software to build our vocabulary, right? We can do things. We can take action to improve this area of our life, right? And that's what I mean when I say that confidence is an evolutionary kind of concept, right? Because there's always things that all of us can improve on, right? Every single person on earth has something they can improve on, right? Even the most amazing people in the world, right? Even the billionaires and the Dalai Lama and the Pope and everyone who you see is like, these people are like the ideal, right? There's still things that they are not perfect with. Right, and the concept is then that we have this opportunity, right? And again, when we bring this back to what self-awareness is all about, right, which is also what mindfulness is all about, right, which is the ability to see it for what it is, to see ourselves for what we are, and to do so with an openness and an acceptance and a letting go of the emotions that might block us from seeing this way of ourselves, right? When we can do this, we can then be open to the fact that, yeah, I could really use to work on this aspect of my life, and we can do it. Right? And now we've taken one step closer to being exactly the way that we want to be and having no flaws, right? And feeling very, very good. And what is that going to lead to? Yes, it's going to lead to more confidence. And once so by, through this process, right, again, we evolve into a very, very confident person. And then, and that's what I was talking about yesterday, is that now we want to take this out into the world. Like, there's no situation that we don't want to be part of, right? Even, this might surprise you because I make these videos every day that hundreds of people are watching, but, and the podcast and everything else, but I'm actually an introvert. I don't like being out, and I would love to stay here and just, stay at home. I'm a homebody. I'm an introvert, right? But that's not out of a sense of fear like it used to be, right? It used to be like, I don't want to deal with people because I just don't, I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel like I can, manage a social situation. I'm just not, I don't like it, right? Well, it's not that anymore. Now it's just desire. I just like to stay at home. I like to hang out with my kids. I like to, kind of, hang out in my sweatpants, and, that's just a desire thing. But there's at no point am I in a place where I don't want to go out because I'm worried about something. In fact, I love to go out and experience people, even though I am at heart an introvert. I love the opportunities to go out and have conversations with people. I know that sounds very sort of contradictory, and I guess to an extent it is, although some people have told me that I'm an extroverted introvert, which I guess that's what we're doing now. But the point is that, that you want to go out and you want to live life because you have this skill to live life. You have this skill to show the world. You have the skill to share with the world. And that's where the compassion comes in and the altruism, right? And so, and this results in a really, really important aspect, okay? I was actually listening to someone else who is another mindfulness teacher and practitioner, and he's somebody I really, really value his friendship, and I admire him very, very highly, right? As a person, as a smart person, as a kind person. And one thing that he said, I was listening to a talk that he gave at one point. One thing he said, I think it was a podcast, he said that he used to, and this really rang true with me, he said he used to treat every day as just something you have to get through. Just getting through the day, just, going through whatever emotions you have to go, emotions, not emotions, whatever emotions you have to go through to just get through it, right? And that resonated with me so powerfully. That's how I used to live, folks. And I'm sure there's some of you who are living that way too. But you know what? It doesn't have to be that way, right? You can, when you have this self-confidence and you have this self-awareness and you have these skills of mindfulness, right? And the ability to handle whatever it is that life is going to give you, you almost welcome the trouble and the hard times in your life. And you want to live every single moment with compassion, with presence, with acceptance, with curiosity, right? And that's the beautiful thing here, folks. And that's where you can get to if you do these practices. And I promise you, you can. If I can do it, you can do it. Anyone can do it. And so you kind of go from this thing of like just kind of surviving life or just getting through it all, and just getting to the end of the day with ourselves intact. You go from this to to really wanting to go out and live every single moment because you can, because you have the confidence. So I hope you all found that helpful today and interesting. And if you have any questions about this, or if you want to, kind of explore more this idea of confidence and how it develops and how you can develop it through these practices, all you got to do is reach out to me. Okay, I've helped so many people get to these places that I talk about, and and confidence has so much to do with it, but so does stress. So much of our lack of confidence comes from being in the survival mode of stress. And so all this stuff is so intertwined with each other, and I would love to help you untangle it with the processes and practices that I have developed over the last 10 years to untangle it for myself. I'd love to show you how to untangle it for you. All right, everybody. So let me know if you want some help with that. Okay, drop a comment, send a message. And also do all the YouTube things. Okay, please give this video a like if you like it. Subscribe to my channel. Share it with friends. Drop a little comment. All these things help a great deal with the algorithm to get me in front of more people who might need the help. All right, so please, this is a gift that I do every day, and the more people that receive this gift, the more powerful it becomes, and the more the more sort of beauty it puts out there. And so yeah, if you could take the moment, just like, subscribe, maybe type out a quick comment, I would love it. All right, everybody, thanks a lot. I'll be back tomorrow, and I wish you well. Take care, everybody.